Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Catherine Kelly, and I wanted to bring up a topic that's been kind of on my mind and bothering me actually for a few years, but it came up again for me last week, which I really wanted to throw this idea out to you and hear from you about this because it does um, make me wonder how this has happened. But the whole question is, when is it that the word soul became a four-letter word? And I don't mean just a literal four-letter word. I mean a word that we don't talk about. And the first time this came up for me was about 2.5 years ago. I was doing a workshop in Asheville, North Carolina for healthcare providers, and I was teaching my soul health model to them so that they could use it with their client work and really go through teaching their own clients how to better each one of the 10 branches of the human condition, which are in my model, but then also how to deepen their lives into soul work, meaning really getting to know yourself and living more authentically, living more in your integrity, more lined up or aligned with yourself with regard to what you know you need or don't need within those branches. And about two-thirds of the way through the workshop, I had the group do a little activity on their own. It was going to be about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And I was kind of wandering around and watching and listening, and I noticed that there was a gentleman sitting right in front of the podium where I was speaking from, and I could tell he was wrestling with something. And so I kind of gently walked over to him and asked him if there's something I could help with, if there's something that he was having a hard time with. And he looked at me and he said, "Yeah, I'm struggling to figure out what gives you the right to talk about the soul." And it was one of those things where I was kind of surprised to hear that because we had been talking about it for the whole day, basically. And and everybody was really kind of loving the model and loving how it was all coming together for folks and understanding how you incorporate this holistic model. But this gentleman was really wrestling with it. And he said, "You're not a clergy, you're not a minister, you don't have a religious degree. I don't understand how you can talk about the soul." And to me, that was a little shocking because I told him, well, I didn't know anybody was exempt from talking about it. We all have a soul, we are a soul, just happen to have a human body that carries us around in order to exercise whatever we need for our soul. So it was a very curious question to me, and I've thought about that and pondered that ever since. So last week, I went to a showing of this movie called The Physics of the Soul. That was shown here at a theater and is basically about consciousness and how consciousness is coming together to show that we have a lot of internal power of healing. And it was really interesting to me because the word soul was not used once in the film until about the last 10 minutes, and then it was used about 3 or 4 times. And I was thinking, gosh, the physics of the soul, but they weren't even talking about the soul. And when I asked the producer of the show afterward, tell me more about that. Tell me, what you're going to do in future films and how you're going to really use the soul to explain what you're doing. He didn't really answer my question. He talked around it. He didn't use the word soul himself. He just kind of talked around it. And I just kind of got the feeling that he just hadn't planned it out enough yet. But it still bothered me that for some reason, the word soul seems to be a no-no. It seems to be something that we don't use in our everyday language. We don't really think about living through our soul, and to me that's interesting and almost odd because every ancient culture was so much more connected with themselves and with nature and with everything around them because they saw that Earth had a soul itself, that it was the soul of the Earth that they were trying to connect to and working through. And most people who are from cultures that are much more spiritually based really do have that kind of soul-to-soul connection with everybody around them and with the earth. And to me, we've lost that. So I think maybe that's where the word soul has gotten sort of pushed off to the back burner or turned into a four-letter word, is that somehow we've disconnected so much that we don't even feel comfortable using the word. But what I want to encourage is that you really look for ways to use it because we are so disconnected. I think it's so important to bring back that idea of soul and what it is that we can connect with from that deep sense of ourself, which to me is what we have to align with for radiant living. So I had dinner with the producer of this film a couple nights after the showing of the movie. And he and I were talking, and he asked me, how would I define the soul? And I said, well, in the book, in Soul Health, Aligning with Spirit for Radiant Living, I basically say it's the essence of who we are in the most simplest terms. And then he asked me to define that more, and I basically said it is the energetic manifestation of the extension of basically source. Source meaning all powerful source, God, universe, whatever it is that you might use, the word that you might use to describe source. So it is, again, the energetic manifestation of the extension of source. So we basically, once we connect in, that's where we find our spirituality. That's where we find our peace. That's where we find that enlightened feeling that we all look for, and that way of being, that connectedness. And so now my mission, and he asked me, what would you like people to know about the soul? And I basically said, my first thing is I would like to get it into everybody's vocabulary once again. Would like people to use the word soul and to basically get reconnected with themselves, because in essence that is who we are. We have this human body, but that's not the entirety of who we are. Our truth, our integrity, our sense of knowing, sense of self, all comes from the understanding of the soul. So I would love to hear from you, whether it be from email, through sending me a message through Facebook or whatever. I would love to hear from you, to hear more about your thoughts about the soul being a four-letter word and how disconnected we have become. Because I think as love consciousness continues and grows, we're going to have to get reconnected with our soul. So again, I'd love to hear from you. Go to www.drcatherinetkelly.com to click on any of my social media icons, which are on the left hand of the screen. But once again, I am here to help you align with your soul for radiant living. And I think, first of all, we need to start with reincorporating the word soul into your language. Thank you very much, and I can't wait to hear from you.